COVID-19 lockdown is back. Cancel culture strikes again. I discover a new education curriculum. Kamala Harris is unbelievable. And Trump, that's Donald Trump, signs a Middle East peace deal. And we're back. Episode number 7 of Viewpoint, the Brian Heeraman podcast. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thanks for tuning in not just to this episode, but to previous episodes as well. If you've missed any episode, I invite you to catch up. Go back and listen to all the episodes that you missed in because some of the topics that we have been discussing and will be discussing even in today's episode builds from material that I would have discussed in previous episodes. So if you don't want to be lost, I encourage you to go and listen to those previous episodes and catch up on where we are today. So I want to say that out this podcast before we jump into the meat of the matter, that this podcast is available on Spotify. And I want to encourage you to download the Google Podcast app and like and subscribe, not just to the Google Podcast app, but also to my YouTube channel. Because once you like and subscribe, you get instant notification as soon as these podcasts are uploaded. So you know exactly when you can listen. I'm going to get the the podcast on Apple as soon. So that way, the podcast will be available to a wider medium so you can listen at your leisure. So that's where we are right now. And I'm thinking like within the next few weeks, we should start doing some interviews and getting some very interesting people on that I wouldn't let the cat out of the bag and say who yet, but trust me, it's going to be some very interesting people, and not just big names, but I want to get some folks on the ground, just let people have an understanding of what it is that's really taking place, what it is on a grassroots level. I think I mentioned this in my earlier episodes. So I'm going to start to do that within the next few weeks. So everyone will have an appreciation for what's really going on out here, not just, this bubble living that everyone seems to be living in, you know. So where are we at today? So much, Trinidad is a place that has so much interesting things going on. It's like we just can't stop making the news. So yesterday, COVID-19 lockdown is back, folks. It's not back with a bang as before, but nonetheless, it's still back. Gathering is restricted to 5 people. I think they've closed gyms, and what else have they done? They've made bars and restaurants takeout, which honestly I don't think is such a bad idea. At least it's open and people can still go to work and you know have an income coming in. It's not as bad as last time when they closed it totally. So I think necessary precautions can be taken even though there's curbside pickup or delivery or whatever it is. So that's better. That's better this time around, and I agree with that. But from the Prime Minister's speech, what got my attention is this desire to make the wearing of masks mandatory. I totally disagree with that because this coming from the Prime Minister saying that how this he has passed on to the Attorney General. This very Attorney General who has made a statement that the citizen has no right to privacy, the individual, no right to privacy. And if that statement isn't scary enough, now passing such a method of making mask compulsory to this Attorney General, that to me is just as scary. Because I'm not quite sure what the Attorney General is going to do. I know fully well that how such a law requires parliamentary approval because laws are made in parliament, they're not made vike and no archaic health ordinance can't force people to wear face masks. So, and if there's no parliament, then how does the Attorney General intend to do this? I mean, eventually there will be a parliament when they swear in the Prime Minister and he appoints whoever he has to appoint. But that's not a immediate matter. So, I'm not quite sure how they intend to do this. Wearing a face mask compulsory and mandatory is an infringement on the constitutional rights as per Section 415 of the Constitution. How they intend to make this mandatory without opposition support, and you require a three-fifths majority to pass anything that's inconsistent with Section 3 and 4 of the Constitution. Sorry, Section 4 and 5 of the Constitution. So I don't know how they intend to do this. And even if they were to pass such a piece of draconian legislation, how do they intend to enforce this? I mean, why would you want to pass something that's impossible to enforce? Why? Just because it's cool to say that, oh, hey, we make the wearing of face mask compulsory? It doesn't make no sense. If you can't enforce a piece of legislation, then why pass it? It's it's like it's confusing to me. But I understand fully well how this operates with bureaucrats on top. They rather sit on your comfy chair and say, you know what, we have the power rather than where is the power. But if you want to have the power, you should be able to enforce that power. Are you going to send policemen on every street to see you wearing face masks, or when policemen see you not wearing your face mask, they're going to stop you and charge you? I mean, is that the proper use of the police force? I mean, for Gary, yeah, that is the proper use for his time, because he can't do nothing else better than to do petty crimes. You know, face masks. And today I see, is it today? I'm not sure if it's today. The policemen in their normal tactical wear and their big guns, they go for all these zessen parties. You know, they breach such huge laws. They breach huge laws that you have to send these 10, 15 officers to stop these zessen parties. You know, it's crazy. The utilization of such of the arm of the police force for such trivial matters in such a heavy-hand approach is not the right approach for democracy, and that is not what we should be looking forward to. I don't agree with it. You see, when you this whole fascination with wearing of face masks and making it compulsory is creating the false sense of security for individuals as it relates to COVID-19. They think that because they're wearing this face mask, they don't have to do social distancing, they don't have to do regular hand sanitizing and washing of the hands, you know, staying away from not gathering. That is what the face mask, folks. The face mask does not give you 100% protection from COVID-19. The virus particles are so small, it will still get into your face mask unless, of course, you're wearing a N95 mask or something like that. And who wears a face mask for the entire day? It's so, I don't know how you all do it, but wearing a face mask for the entire day to me is not ideal. It's not healthy. Breathing that carbon dioxide consecutive all the time like that. I mean, I don't understand it. But that is what it seems as though they want. And I hope such a piece of legislation is never passed in Parliament. The individual has a right and a responsibility, for your own protection. And no government can force any individual to protect your own life. What the individual has to do, the individual will do. And the craziness has gone to the point where, let me tell you a story about so I went to this store, right? And before I entered, the guy took my temperature, which is fine. I mean, security take a temperature. I mean, that's pretty normal now. But then another thing happened. The security officer asked me for my name and my contact number. And I'm like, what? Yeah, folks, that's the point where it's reaching now. It's reaching now to the point where stores are now asking you for your name and your contact number, your private number, your name. What does that have to do with entering into a store to buy what even a soft drink? That does that even make sense? It's crazy what's going on, and there has to be some sensible pullback and some common sense approach to all of that is going on. It makes no sense for a store to be asking you for your contact number and your name. What if that contact number gets into the hands of some, you know, nefarious character who starts harassing you? I mean, it doesn't make sense. There needs to be some pullback. And I hope that going forward, sensible approaches will see coming forward. But when it's related to COVID-19 trying to bigger, there has been no sensible approach. I mean, we all know fully well that there was a 30-day period when there was no COVID-19 virus detected. The borders are locked down, so God knows where this COVID-19 just miraculously appeared. But we all know fully well, because at the end of the day, COVID 19 was always here. The most important thing in terms of controlling COVID 19 is not being done, and has not been done from the inception, which was testing. This was all just something that the government used and perpetuated on its citizens to make them believe that how they had COVID 19 under control, which was totally false. And the chickens are now coming home to roost, and you see it in the numbers. Because if the incubation period for COVID 19, and I think I've talked about this already, is 14 days. How come after 30 days you find COVID 19? But you see, the approach of the Ministry of Health is always to test people who have symptoms. And if you continue with that approach, by the time you test somebody who has symptoms, I'm thinking obviously that person will have spread the virus already. To contain the virus, you have to constantly be testing people, not just once or twice, constantly be testing people. So as soon as you know where the virus is or who has the virus, that person could quarantine themselves so that they would know that how they can't spread the virus when they're quarantined. If you're testing somebody in late stages, but obviously by that time they would have spread the virus, not just to someone immediately around them, but to others as well. So the approach is wrong. And I've said it before, and I don't know. I hope someone out there is listening and good sense prevail sooner rather than later, because when those borders eventually open back, COVID 19 is definitely going to come in. And the only thing that's going to prevent or save Trinidad and Tobago from a mass outbreak, if we don't already have one in the medium term, is a vaccine. And we know how far away, we may not be far away in terms of the world from getting a vaccine, but we are far away in terms of Trinidad receiving a vaccine before all those other countries. So we need to take a sensible approach as it relates to COVID 19 and stop using this heavy hand approach to make it look as though you're doing something when you're not really doing nothing. Attacking Zassan parties and using these officers to enforce. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to do it, but these approach to just make it look as though you're doing something is not in the best interest of Trinidad and Tobago, and I hope that they reverse course sooner rather than later. So let's move on to something else. Let's move on to something that I see making its presence in Trinidad and Tobago: cancel culture. You all know and you have seen that apparently some employee from Ramsaran Products made some statement deemed to be racist, and there's a boycott on the product. Massy stores was the first supermarket that pulled the products off the shelves, and then all supermarkets decided that they're going to pull the product off the shelf as well. Off the shelves. 2 days later, I see the supermarket association has reversed course and allowed the products to be back on the shelf. Really? That is just the problem with cancel culture. Knee-jerk reactions to issues is not going to get us anywhere far. It's not going to widen the debate and make sensible decision. How could massive stores pull the product off the shelf immediately without even thinking about what's happening, without even understanding what's going on? I understand that Ramsaran Products fired the person who made the statements. What else do we expect them to do? I mean, so what? You pull the product off the shelves, and well, I don't know how many employees Ramsaran Products hire, but let's just say it was 10 employees that they hire, right? So you pull the product off the shelf, and this company has no longer has the means of paying these employees. Then what? What's going to happen to these employees? They're going to have to be let home. So you're going to take the statement made by one employee who is not a representative of the company and who the company has said is not a representative of the company. You're going to take that, make that one employee, that one individual, be responsible for the jobs, the lives, and the well-beings of not just the 10 employees, but the 10 employees may very well have dependents on them as well. Is that what's going to happen? Is that what massy stores and all those other supermarkets intended to do? Thank God, the 2 days, it only lasted for 2 days. The individual has a responsibility. I always say that the individual has a responsibility for their own actions. It's not a group thing. It can't be that. Cancel culture is a crazy culture, and I don't agree with it. It took place already with regards to Starlight Group, whereby I think it was the owner who said something about sneakers and whatever he said. I can't remember exactly what he said, and they wanted to boycott Starlight. Folks, when you engage in these sorts of boycott, it doesn't just affect the business. You're not just hampering the business owner. You're hampering all the employees associated with that business, and that is not something that you want to have on your on your mind when you go to sleep. It's not something good. If it is that you as an individual decide, you know what, you're not going to give support to that establishment because of what the owner said, then that's fine. That is your right. But to have these organizations and these huge gatherings to protest and to cancel these businesses and to shut them down and all that, no, it's not right. It's not the best approach. It's not something that free society should engage in. I mean, you can do it as an individual and be fine with it, but I don't think it's right to go down that road and punish innocent employees because of some stupid statements. Like I always said, free speech doesn't have to be nice speech. No one said that. But free speech just has to be free. You as an individual could take your own decision there after that. It's made, but free speech doesn't have to be pretty. And that's something that I think we need to encourage. And we need to encourage this because going forward, what we do today is something that's going to educate people in days, weeks, months, years to come. And speaking about education, the Prime Minister also said that educational institution may be closed and closed on probably until the end of December. But hey, that's no problem, especially when it comes to this government. Um, as a matter of fact, I've found the new curriculum for until the end of the term because as far as this government is concerned, they just want you to learn, the basics, the simple basics, and they give it out because once you know that, then they're cool. But instead of me, just mounted about this new curriculum that I discovered, let me play the new curriculum for you as far as this government is concerned. Hold on, let's see if I can do this. How
New
here it is.
dance for the PNM. All the youths and all the children. New dance for the PNM. For the PNM. For the PNM. Right foot, balize. Left foot, balize. Everybody just do the balize. Everybody just do the balize.
Oh my god, that was funny. I mean, come on, folks. Honestly, the laptop program was stopped 5 years ago. And yes, there will always be a segment of students there who will continue to learn because their parents can afford whatever mechanism and means to ensure that they continue to learn. But having said that, having said that, there is a significant um, segment out there of students who have done absolutely nothing from since March 13, whenever this COVID-19 virus thing started and lockdown started and schools were closed. Absolutely nothing they have done. And now with your intention of just closing schools, now the Prime Minister did say probably until the end of December, without listing any plans whatsoever of how you're gonna have students continue learning. But you're just thinking about closing school. And for those of you who all may have thought that students continue to learn during school and online mechanism and all that, that's not really the case. So how do you intend to plug this gap of students who have not learned anything since the lockdown started from March 13 to, to just continue this new lockdown, this new drive? So I just I just I'm wondering you know there's always been a school of thought, I believe it, how the People's National Movement always like to keep the population uneducated. But to me, the new curriculum, as you've just listened to, that's all they want you to learn. Once they have students learning that, then they'll always have a vote bank to maintain. I mean, you may think it's funny, but yeah, it's funny. But what is it? They have identified no plans to ensure continuous learning during the periods of lockdown. I don't know what else to think. I hope sometime in the future that they do say something. And I'm not quite sure the results of this bunch of students for SEA results, I don't want to even see it. I don't want to even know what happened with it because it's going to be so heart wrenching to list to read some of these results. Like I said, folks, all the top schools will continue to get their students, their prime students, because that's something that there's always a certain parents out there who will do what it takes to get their children to learn and to have access to proper education, but that is not the case in the majority. So we wait and see what happens with that. But I want to move on to more serious matters. I want to move on to something to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Oh my God, Kamala Harris is such a garbage candidate. Unbelievable that Joe Biden would pick someone like Kamala Harris. Unbelievable that Kamala Harris would accept the nomination for vice president from Joe Biden, given everything that she would have said about Joe Biden in the past. I just don't understand it. She has called Joe Biden, as I mentioned before, racist, someone who hangs out with segregationists, someone who she said she believes the sexual harassment accusers of Joe Biden. I mean, but yet she's found it in herself to accept the nomination. Now Kamala Harris is such a far left candidate who the media is now attempting to produce as some moderate candidate. She is so left. She's left of Bernie Sanders. That is essentially how far left she is. She believes in taking away gun rights. She believes in abortion, not just during the pregnancy, the 9 month pregnancy period, but pregnancy after birth. That's what she believes in, that level of abortion. That is just how far left Kamala Harris is. Healthcare for all, immigration. You just go into the United States, no questions asked. That is how far left Kamala Harris is. And no matter all the crazy thing Kamala Harris has said about Joe Biden, this is how Kamala Harris has defended what she has said, sorry, about Joe Biden.
The old phrase, politics makes for strange, let's say, partnerships. Because in those debates, you landed haymakers on Joe Biden. I mean, his teeth were like chiclets all over the stage. And now I believe you that you're fully supportive of him. How does that transition happen? How do you go from being such a passionate opponent on such bedrock principles for you, and now you guys seem to be pals?
It was a debate.
Not everybody landed punches like you did, though.
It was a debate.
So you don't mean it?
It was a debate.
It's just a debate, folks. It's just a debate. I mean, Kamala Harris defends all of the mean, nasty, and horrible things that she has said about Joe Biden during the presidential debates is that it's just a debate. Yeah. I mean, that speaks of her character, her integrity, where you can say one thing on the debate stage knowing fully well that it's probably untrue. But then you can come back, flip of a hand, and change your mind and go with this person who you accuse of all these horrible things in an instant. I mean, how I don't understand how she's going to defend herself when Mike Pence asks her these questions and the media is attempting to purport Kamala Harris as a moderate candidate. Kamala Harris is a far left candidate. And there's nothing that she can say or do that will take away her record. I mean, she has been accused of being the leftist candidate in the Senate under the Democratic leadership. And there's nothing that she can say or do that will change that. I mean, she she's a hypocrite when it comes to her policies, and she would say and do anything just to get power. And that statement proves it in its entirety. Meanwhile, as Kamala Harris is continuing to flip flop all over the place just to get some little attention, Donald Trump recently signed a Middle East peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Now, Joe Biden has rushed to take credit for this. He said that this all started under Barack Obama. And you know what? You know what? Uncle Joe is right. It did start under Barack Obama. It started under Barack Obama when Obama signed that crazy, dangerous nuclear deal with Iran. When he signed that nuclear deal with Iran, he put in motion a situation where Arab states and Israel decided they have common interests, and that is they don't want a nuclear Iran. That spurred on all of these deals that's taken place. That spurred on the Muslim world and the Jewish world to recognize that they don't want Iran with a nuclear weapon. They don't want Iran threatening all of the states in the Middle East, and that brought them to this point. So the United Arab Emirates and Israel have now opened back all the diplomatic channels. Trading is going to take place. The embassies are open back, and soon enough you're going to see Bahrain and Oman, other countries join into this peace deal. Saudi Arabia is clearly not far away from joining this deal because they've now recognized that they have more common interests against Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. All of those grouping nations and terrorist organizations. These countries are now recognizing that how Israel has the same interests that they have, and it's best if we team up together against our common foe. So Joe Biden could try as much as he wants to take all the credit he wants, but the only credit he's gonna get, the only credit Obama is gonna get is the fact that their actions and they're taking sides with Iran spurred this peace deal on. And that is the only credit that they can take for it. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, who came into office and let Iran know that how the buck stops here, the threats, none of it would take place anymore. And he tore up that nuclear deal that Obama and them signed, whereby they transfer billions of dollars in cash to Iran and whatever. If Donald Trump didn't come into office at this point in time, this peace deal would have never been seen. And you know what? The media could try as much as they want and not cover this peace deal, but the fact of the matter is it's still there, and the world knows that this deal is now signed, and the Middle East is a much safer place because of this deal. Iran is now going to have to realize that our enemies that they that all the foes are lining up against them, and they need to pay attention and to return to a normal state of operation and not to one of threats. So that's it, folks. That's episode 7. Tune in next time. I have much more to say because, as you all know, Trinidad elections is out and the US election is in. So there's much more to talk about next time around. Thanks for listening.